Hello and welcome to another F12 programming video. My name is Mike Hewitt,
I'm Jacob Rains.
and basically today we got a couple new things. We are going to start a whole playlist, a class that's called C Sharp 101. We're just going to start with the basics all the way from the very beginning. And I guess to start out with that, you need to know how to, not how to program, but what to program in, I guess.
We got to start back at the basics. We want to make this course for anybody at any level. So I think we need to start with tools.
So the first thing is an IDE. And what is an IDE?
Integrated Development Environment.
And that is kind of just like if you were to create a letter, which would be in Word or Google Docs or whatever you would use. This is the same. This is a program to actually create code in. And Visual Studio is what you want to get. It is the C# Microsoft IDE.
It's the flagship product.
And the community version is the free version. It used to not be free. There was all kinds it went all over the board.
It's changed a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I think Community Edition, kind of gets a bad name because it is free. But
it's really
good.
It's really, really good.
You would be hard pressed as a single programmer that's not working on a team of programmers to need something beyond Community Edition.
Yes, I used to. I mean, man, it was a while. 10 years ago, you'd have to pay $200. It's just crazy. It's great now. It is free. So the first place is, at this point of the video, we are. This is where you would go. If not, it's very easily every single time I just type Visual Studio Community download, and it always takes you there. And we are on version 2022. You would click this. Now, I already have it already installed on my computer, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. And give me 1 second. And it is super huge. But you're going to get something along this lines. Now, what you could do is you could continue without code. But this is basically, I can open up old ones, I can create new ones, and we are going to create a new one.
Yeah, so the first thing we need to do is just hit create a new project, and it's going to give you all kinds of options. And Visual Studio can create many types of programs, everything from applications for computers,
yes,
servers, phones, tablets, websites,
Android phones, Xbox, even I see iOS, even
Mac and Linux. You know, back in the old days.
Sorry about that.
Back in the old days, it was very Windows centric, but now Microsoft has embraced all the platforms.
And we can do all kinds of stuff, but in the beginning, everybody starts off with a console app. Can you explain what a console app is?
So a console app is the basic of the basic, stripped down, simplest program that we can create. It is a black screen by default that populates some textual data onto the screen. It is not fancy. It doesn't look like a video game. It reminds me of those old DOS programs from back in the 90s. But it's good to learn with, and we can learn some concepts and some of the basics without getting bogged down with the user interface or other complications that we don't need to get to just yet.
So I'm going to go ahead, I'm creating the new name, I'm clicking this. We are in the framework of .NET 6, and I'm going to hit create. And I'm sure this is going to pull up a much bigger window. Yep. And I'm going to pull it in here. So here we are with our first, I guess, program. Let's go ahead and go around the thing. Go around Visual Studio and explain everything.
I would start over on the right-hand side, because I think it's the most important thing, is the Solutions Explorer.
That's where you're going to be spending most of your time in this. Most of the time you're going to be. This is where you're coding, but this is your second, I guess.
Yeah.
Important video.
The Solutions Explorer is a tree structure that explains the layout of your application. The root node up at the very top where it says Solution VS 101, that is your solution,
Yes.
which is kind of a weird concept at first. A solution is just a collection of programs or of projects. The reason we do that is because a lot of times we have multiple, what we call projects, grouped together because they all relate to each other.
And these are projects.
Those are projects, and projects for the most part, at least at this point in time, you can think of as a program that we're creating. So for right now, for the foreseeable future, we're going to have one solution with one program, one project. And our project is a console app, and you can kind of tell there's a little C# icon next to it. Sometimes the icon changes depending on the type of the project.
Right.
And then inside the project, we see all the stuff about it. The first thing we see is dependencies, which we don't need to get into for right now. We'll come back to that many lessons from now. And the next thing that we see, the last thing, and he's got it highlighted there, is program.cs, which is already a default file that's been created for us, and it's the one that we're really going to be working in today.
And that is like the main of the console app. That's where it starts, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Going around, I wanted to kind of up here, file. This is where we'd maybe start new projects or new files. We can also do the other ones. Here's obviously save. This is an important one. This play button. This is what you would do. So you do all your coding or whatever else, and when you hit play, it's going to run the program. Now a lot of this
changes really frequently,
right?
And it also changes depending on what project you're in and what plugins you've got loaded. After file, it starts to get a little more iffy. So we'll dig into those when we need to. The one thing that's good and bad about Visual Studio is there are at least 4 ways to do anything.
Yeah.
So we'll try to show you multiple ways to get to things when we can. Also, in case you're watching this later in the future and some of this stuff is moved around, which they do from time to time, if we show you a few multiple ways to get to things,
Yeah.
That'll help out.
I think the last thing we need to do is just play this.
Yeah, let's look at the code here real fast. We really only have 2 lines of code here. The first one is a comment, which means it's just there for informational purposes. It doesn't actually do anything. We only really have 1 line of code.
Now this is new in .NET 6. If you were in a different version, like anything previous, you would probably see namespaces and using statements and everything else that kind of obscured that in the program. So it might look different, but this is how it's going to be looking in 6. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
So we've got this one command. We don't need to go into it yet in detail, but it's console.writeline hello world. And all that's going to do is to take the words hello world, and it's going to put them onto the screen in our program, and then the program will exit.
Do we need to put a read line in here?
No, it'll come up with the default.
Okay.
The program has exited something, that verbiage that no one ever reads.
And if you don't know what a console app is, we're going to
show
see
you
it real soon. When you play it, here it is here. And if you've seen it, it looks like really old hacker kind of, all text. So all we did was we just displayed that on the screen, and that's it.
Yeah, and you see the next line, it says big long string, and then it says exited with code 0, which just means the program ended correctly.
Yep. And that's it. And if I push a button, pressing it, yeah, it just closes it, and we're back to square one. So that's really the first video of this series. It's pretty. This is the boring part. We're going to be coding later, and it's going to be much funner. But to go through this and actually know that this is the IDE and how to start programming. Thank you for watching that video from F12 Programming. Please remember to like and subscribe. That does so much for us in the ratings. You have no idea. Also, don't forget to comment below. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck coding.